Welcome to Three and Out with Jason and Kevin. I am Jason. That's Kevin. It's brought to you by CincyJungle.com, a part of SB Nation, and sponsored by Eastgate Smiles Dental Care. Kevin, how you doing?
Doing all right. How about you, man?
Pretty good. So the whole format of the show is we have three talking points: first down, second down, third down. We'll kind of go over three different things. It is the off season. So there's not a ton to talk about. There's a lot more than I thought there would be when we were kind of planning the show.
This is gonna get really silly come like June.
Yeah,
we're gonna be struggling a little bit.
Yeah. That's when we'll start talking about other things that we like. But Kevin, why don't you go ahead and take us off?
Okay, peek behind the curtain. Me and Jason were arguing earlier today about Bijan and whether or not he should be taken in the first if available. Now, Jason has the very old school viewpoint that no running back ever should be taken in the first round. Is that what you're telling me, Jason?
Yes. Yeah, it is. It's exactly what I'm telling you.
Okay. I will agree with you 95% of the time on this. Bijan is not any running back. And I'm not even making the claim that the Bengals have to take him if he's available. But to discount taking him just from the jump is short-sighted. Here's what Bijan brings you. He is going to get you out of too high coverage. You know that too high coverage that completely limited the Bengals all season? Bijan fixes that. Bijan's good in pass protection, so he's a three-down back. Bijan brings you those explosive plays. He is a passing weapon. He may be the best player in this draft, period. And I get you're telling me, oh, we don't take him in the first. We're picking 28. Calm down. We are barely picking first. That's just the price of success. But you say, no matter what, no running back.
Right. Yeah, and I'm going to stick to that. So let me say this first. I do believe that Bijan Robinson will not be available at 28. I think the only way the Bengals get Bijan Robinson is if they trade up for him, and that would be the worst, even worse than taking him at 28, would be to trade up for Bijan Robinson. It's terrible. Let me say this. They went to the Super Bowl in 2020, right? 2021, 2020, after the 2021 season, with Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine. They lost the AFC Championship game by 3 points with Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine. I think drafting a running back at 28 would be making the same mistake the Cowboys made by drafting Zeke in the first round. And Zeke was great. He was really, really good when they had a really good offensive line, and now they're paying him $1 trillion to be a mediocre running back.
So don't pay him.
Well, I get that. But so what you're saying is
we're winning. I'm saying we're winning now. So Why don't we get one of the best running backs possible, pay him $3 million a year for the next 4 years, and then if he doesn't, we can't pay him. Do you want to win a Super Bowl now, or do you want to try to plan for 5 years from now?
No, I want to win one. I want to win one now. I wanted to win one 2 years ago and last year and everything. But here's the thing: you're talking about basically renting a player. Right, I'm not interested in that. Right, and because that's what it is. You're saying if he's drafted in the first round, right, and he's really good, you have him for a max of 5 years, and that's it with a 5th-year option. Okay,
that's every contract. Every contract is renting.
I know that, and what I'm saying is if he's really good, you will not hang on to him. I personally would rather them take an offensive lineman or something else. It doesn't have to be an offensive lineman, but finish beefing up the offensive line. And then you could put any running back there. Anybody. Jamal Williams. Put Jamal Williams back there with Samaje Perine and Chris Evans, if Chris Evans ever gets on the field. But put him back there. No, I know. But put him back there, and he's just as good. Okay, he won't be just as good, but he's good enough. Good enough. This is Joe Burrow's team. This is a passing offense. I don't want to take the ball out of Joe Burrow's hand and give it to a running back. And I do agree with you that the whole too high safety thing. I get what you're saying. But if you fix the offensive line and you have a running back who can consistently get over 4 yards per carry, it doesn't have to be Bijan Robinson. It won't be Joe. I don't think it'll be Joe Mixon. We'll kind of get into that later, but it could be Jamal Williams. It could be anybody. It could be Tajay Sharp. someone they draft later on in the draft, if he gets over 4 yards a carry, that takes away the two high coverage. It doesn't have to be Robinson.
No, look at the way Burrow with that deep ball and Jamar Chase dissected offenses that first year together. It got into the Super Bowl, and everyone panicked. And you really think 4 yards is going to be enough to get them out too high? I think they're going to give us that 4 yards over and over again. We need explosive plays.
I understand what you're saying, and I'm not saying that 4 yards is going to do it. I'm not settling at 4 yards per carry. I'm just saying that 4 yards has been the benchmark of a successful running career, or 4 yards per carry has been the benchmark of a successful season for a long time. That's kind of been what everyone's measured is, he got less or more than 4 yards per carry. I think Mixon had 3 point something this year. I don't really remember what it was. Pirine was a little bit over 4 yards, I think. But the Bengals running game was inconsistent. I don't think that's because of the running back talent. I think it was because of the offensive line. We had a new offensive line this year. They didn't play together in the preseason. They got together. Eventually, they started to gel. You know what I mean? And then right at the end of the season, we lost Collins and Kappa, and it was devastating. But I don't think that Bijan Robinson is the answer. I think finishing the offensive line and then handing the ball off to whoever, because a good offensive line can make a mediocre running back into an all-pro. Bijan Robinson, I don't think, is the answer. Now, I understand that he's a good player. I don't know if he's the best player in the draft. He might be. Again, I think this is a
running back PFF has ever charted.
They've
only been doing it since 2014.
Right.
But still.
I get that, yeah. I think it's just – I think you could put anyone back there and be successful and win a Super Bowl this year. I just don't want to take the ball away from Joe Burrow to give to our fancy new running back. But
I want to take the ball away from Joe Burrow just long enough to scare them with our fancy new running back and then let him pass block or take little dump-off passes if necessary while Burrow chucks it downfield 30 yards so it'll open Jamar Chase, something we didn't get to see almost at all last year.
I understand what you're saying. I just disagree. I don't agree. I don't think – first of all, I think it's a moot point. I don't think Bijan Robinson will be there at 20 years.
No, but this is what the offseason's about. It's just about discussing every random thing you can think of.
All conjecture. It's all, just a bunch of nonsense. I just don't see a reason to pass up a great run or pass blocker. They need to upgrade the offensive tackle position. Leo Collins may not be ready when the season starts. I don't know.
I am not saying pass up a good O lineman, or I'm not saying if both and it will never happen, but if both Bijan and Mayer are both there, you have to take Bijan. I'm not saying any of that. But here's the question. I get what you're saying. You're saying that a good O-line can solve a lot of running back issues. Totally agree.
Yes.
What do you think fixes our run game issues more? The fifth best offensive tackle who's a project and started at left tackle and now has to move to right, or the best running back we've seen in 10 years?
I'm just going to stick to my guns and say fixing the offensive line. I do. I think so. I really do believe. So when Zeke Elliott, right, when he came into the league, the Cowboys had the best offensive line in the league, and he just tore it up. He's older now. He's not old, but he's older. The offensive line isn't nearly as good. They can't get their run game off the ground. They're paying him so much that they're not going to be able to keep Pollard. You know what I mean? It's just, and you said that, well, don't keep him. I hate the idea of using a first round pick on a guy and then knowing you're not gonna get anything for him after. Would you want to trade him in year 5? I don't think they'll do that.
I do not want to care about it at all. I think the idea of drafting now for 5 years from now, no matter what, is the pathway to mediocrity. We are in win now mode. Let's win now.
I understand what you're saying. I do. I agree with the window and the garage door and the front door and the roof is off the house. We're ready to go. We're ready to win right now. I totally agree with that. But I don't want to sacrifice. I don't want to do it like the Rams did. And I'm not saying we're going to buy a Super Bowl. I don't want to sacrifice the future of the franchise to win one Super Bowl. I want to win 6 Super Bowls. I want to win 7 Super Bowls. I want Joe Burrow to have so many. I want the Bengals to have so many Lombardi trophies that they start using them as paperweights in the offices. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I want. I want long-term sustained success. I want to be the new Patriots. I want to be the team that everybody hates just because you're jealous.
Sure.
Did you hate the Patriots when they were winning?
Of course.
Yeah,
I think
because
every single fan did.
Everybody outside of Boston hated the Patriots because they won. That's what I want. And I don't think Bijan Robinson gets us that. I think that he maybe helps us win maybe one Super Bowl, and then you lose him, and then he's gone, and then it's over. I
think we're about done with this conversation. I don't think we're going to get anywhere. But let me just.
No, we're not.
Turning down a player you just said might help us win a Super Bowl, because that's not good enough. You need to win multiple Super Bowls.
Yes.
Not certain I can. Let's win the one. Let's get the one.
We're just gonna have to agree to disagree on this, I think. All right.
Yeah,
moving on. Next topic. So I've actually never seen. I don't know if this is the first year that the NFLPA has done this. But they came out with a report card for all NFL teams, and this has to do with, it's not just like who's on the roster and everything like that. It's a report card for like facilities and how they treat players and stuff like that. And I was shocked. The Bengals are one of 4 teams. Let's see. So we have the Washington Commanders, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Arizona Cardinals to earn an F. Right? So I was a little bit taken aback by that because they did build a practice bubble, and things are changing and stuff like that. But I'm going to read what the NFLPA wrote. It's just an overview. The Cincinnati Bengals are ranked 27th in our team guide. The staff itself is well liked. The players credit head coach Zach Taylor for recent improvements that have been made, which speaks to why he grades out as one of the most well liked coaches in the NFL by his players. However, the facilities and resources offered are ranked far below average. The Bengals are one of 3 teams that do not provide dinner for their players. They are also one of 2 teams who do not provide vitamins, and they are the only team that does not provide supplements. Additionally, players feel that they have some of the smallest hot or cold tubs in the league. They have issues with the showers and toilets not consistently working, and they are the only team that does not have outlets in their lockers to charge devices. The players who responded to the survey are also complained that there is nowhere warm and safe for mothers and kids to go during the game because the Bengals do not provide a family room, unlike the majority of teams. Players reported wives had to sit on the public restroom floor to nurse their babies. These examples are consistent with players' opinions, with only 44% of respondents believing club owner Mike Brown is willing to spend money to make the facility better, ranking him tied for 29th in the category. So just an idea. So there's a few different categories. Treatment of families is an F. Okay. Food service and nutrition is an F-. I didn't know F- was a thing. Weight room's a B+. Strength coaches is an A. Training room is a D-. Training staff is an A. Locker room's a D. And team travel is a C+. And that all comes down to an F. So I was a little bit surprised. I was. I mean, there's been so many changes over the last, 3-4 years. They have the Ring of Honor. They built a practice bubble. And you can't change everything overnight. There's no way to do that. But I was a little bit surprised that they did earn an F. And the company that they have, the Jaguars, the Cardinals, and the Washington Commanders, my gosh, anytime you're in a conversation where you're similar to the Washington Commanders, it's terrible. But yeah, I was really surprised. What do you think?
I think I was surprised, and I think I was dumb to be surprised. We kind of knew this, didn't we? Yeah, we know that we're in the process of rebuilding. We knew that the facilities were subpar. We've heard about this for years and years and years. And we all are rightly focused on the improvements they're making. That's the right way to be. We don't need to be focusing on the negative. And you're right, it can't all change overnight. But I kind of knew it. I just forgot which sounds kind of weird.
Yeah.
And I know, and some of this, I looked into this just like a little bit. I guess they bid out a contract to renovate the tub rooms as well as the workout facilities in October. It was like a public bid. So hopefully that's going to be off the table. This report was also from, I want to say it's almost a year ago. So hopefully more stuff has changed since then. And I get the Mike Brown thing. We all feel that way about Mike Brown. I don't really think Mike Brown has much say in it anymore, if I'm being honest. I think this is Katie's team in all ways, but what's, officially on the letterhead. And I think it will change. But yeah, it's embarrassing, man. It's embarrassing. Especially
it is a little bit.
I don't know why I'm focusing on this. The food thing. You can't give a
Yeah. No.
You want the players to be there, you can't feed them. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, I don't. It is a little embarrassing. I was a little surprised about it. But like you said, we've been talking about these improvements that they've made. I mean, the practice bubble was huge. I was, when we found out they're making a practice bubble, it's amazing because I think that they were the northernmost team without a dome or some sort of practice bubble. So the fact that they did that, and then with the flurry of changes, they did that. They have the Ring of Honor. They do all the new game day stuff they do with like the ruler of the jungle and everything, like all those changes, and then the new uniforms, everything. All those changes came bam, 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 right? And it kind of lulls you into this sense of security that like, oh, no improvements need to be made now. Everything's perfect. And that's obviously not the case. I do agree with you. I don't know what Mike Brown's involvement is anymore, and I'm sure he is involved in some capacity, but there's been such a huge change that it would seem to it would stand to reason that Katie and Troy Blackburn are kind of running the show, or Duke Tobin has a much larger voice now than he did earlier. I don't know. We're not going to know. We're not going to be able to get behind the curtain, but it's disappointing. It's embarrassing. And like I said, anytime that you're compared to the Washington Commanders when it comes to like, facilities and stuff like that, I mean, it's you don't want to be in any group with Washington Commanders ever. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because that's just a dumpster fire of a franchise. So yeah, it is a little embarrassing. I think it'll probably be rectified. You know what I mean? I know there's a lot of these things that wouldn't be a big deal. It doesn't seem to me like it would be a big deal to add an outlet into the lockers. I mean, that's something they could probably do in a couple of days, maybe. You know what I mean? Have some contractor come in and do that. The family room thing. That's the whole that there was a report that there's a wife of a player who's nursing on a public bathroom floor. That's embarrassing. That's really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that needs to be fixed. And then, the dinner thing. I didn't know that. I didn't know. I just kind of assumed that they had team dinners. I had no idea that, like, the players are kind of responsible for their own things. So I imagine that those things will be fixed. I mean, it's clear that they sold the naming rights to the stadium so they could start buying the players' dinner. It has nothing to do with signing Joe Burrow to a multi-billion-dollar contract. It's just so they can give them food, right? Because they were broke, just super broke.
The fastest way to a man's heart, just stomach,
Yes, it is. It is. No, so it is. It's. I was shocked and not shocked at the same time, just because, like I said, you kind of forget about those changes, or you kind of forget about the other stuff that needs to be changed when you consider everything that has changed so far. So they do have some ways to go. If they do this report again next year, I would kind of be surprised if it was an F again. You know what I mean? Hopefully this is as bad as it gets, and it just gets better. I don't think that this is really indicative of if they're going to be able to bring guys here. I don't think that this is, because they brought in some big free agents. I mean, I would like to think that the two biggest things players look for in a team in free agency is, one, money, and two, can I win a Super Bowl here? And the latter is definitely true for anybody coming here, and the first one, I think the Bengals, they're shelling out more money now than they ever have in free agency. They brought in guys like DJ Reader, Chidobe Awuzie. They brought in Mike Hilton. They brought in Von Bell. There's a ton of free agents that they brought in. So money's not a thing. I think that these things are just like the little small potatoes things that'll be fixed.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a little bit surprising. I don't know. Do you have anything else to say about this one?
Two things that occurred to me while you're speaking. One is I agree with you. The stuff you mentioned is definitely bottom of the list. It's unacceptable, but it's bottom of the list. I would say it is money. Can I win? Coaching and management and ownership, and then the facilities we just described. Two, I didn't realize this till you started listing stuff off. I am going to be hopeful because the things you listed were all outward facing things that the public can see. You're muted, by the way.
Sorry.
Uniform. All good.
We're so
wouldn't be a
good at
first
this.
podcast. Yeah, I will say, wouldn't be a first podcast without some kind of hiccup.
Yeah, we started a
outward-facing
Bengals podcast after the season, so this gives you an idea how good we are at this.
But it's all outward facing things. It is
Right.
uniforms, it's Rule of the Jungle, it's Ring of Honor, I mean, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And whether they planned on changing these kind of behind the scenes stuff or not, and I'd like to think they would, this report and the reaction to it has unfortunately kind of made it an outward facing issue. I think this report alone is going to be enough that we're going to see, if not significant improvement, the beginnings of significant improvement by the this time next year. I really do. But it's embarrassing. I hate it.
It is.
Whatever.
I could absolutely see a situation where in the next 3 weeks we find out that they've added outlets to the lockers or they've upgraded their hot and cold tubs. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Do you think you could do a cold tub? That sounds miserable. It does. It sounds absolutely miserable to me. I feel like when something's really cold and it kind of almost burns, I feel like there's no getting used to that. And I know they wouldn't do it if it didn't have a purpose. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I'd rather just stay sore, I think. I don't know. And there's other things that other teams do. Go ahead.
I was just going to say peak performance is so far away from what I'm capable of anymore.
I know.
I don't know what the cold tub would even do for me, man.
I don't know. It's one of those things where these guys are they're beyond athletes. They're freaks of nature. People this big shouldn't move this fast. And if you put me out there, one, I would die immediately. But two, I would be so bad and so injured and so sore when I got to the locker room and there was a line to get in the cold tub. They would come to me specifically and say, no, you're not going to waste everyone's time by getting in the cold tub. You just go home and just stay sore because you're bad.
Go home and think about what you've done.
Yeah, go home and think about your life choices.
I don't know how you got on that field. I don't know how you got on that field, but you go home.
Yeah, go home, think about your life choices. Don't come back ever. We don't want you to be a fan of this team anymore. We're going to buy you a bunch of Pittsburgh Steelers swag and you can move to Pittsburgh. We're going to buy you a house there.
The ultimate exile. Exile to Steelers country.
Exactly. Yeah. You now live on the Allegheny River. So, all right. We're going to talk about our sponsor real quick. Eastgate Smiles Dental Care is a warm and welcoming environment where expertise and customer service come together. As a local business, they love helping their fellow Cincinnatians manage their oral health and achieve a perfect smile. They pair the latest technology with years of experience to give a smile worth showing off. They are dedicated to quality and convenience. They can even perform dental crown procedures the same day in most cases. You like your smile, but they're here to help you love it. They personalize your care to match your needs. Call them today, 513-528-1150 to learn what they can do for your pearly whites. I timed that really well. I did. All right. So go ahead. The third topic. You go ahead and bring it up.
We're talking about the combine. We're talking about mostly the various interviews of coaching staff. That's kind of the only thing to talk about yet. We're recording this Wednesday night, so there hasn't been much. The Bills have sat down with a handful of defensive tackles. Of course they did. It's pretty much just defensive tackles in the building, in my understanding. And I am almost 100% confident that there is no correlation between who they actually sit down with and who they end up drafting. It really is just they have questions. That's it. But I do think the coaching staff and the ownership, not ownership, Duke Tobin, I do think they had some interesting comments.
They did.
You got a couple clips you want to play for us, right?
Yeah. I have 3 different sound bites from Duke Tobin. I do want to say before we get to those, so the schedule for the Combine is the first on-field workouts are going to be tomorrow, March 2nd, and that will be the defensive tackles, defensive linemen, and linebackers. Okay, and then Friday, March 3rd, will be on-field workouts for defensive backs and then special teams, kickers and stuff like that. And then on Saturday, March 4th, will be measurements and on-field workouts for quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends. And then the last day, Sunday, will be measurements and on-field workouts for offensive linemen and running backs. And then, the bench press is separate from the on-field workouts. So they do the bench press and broadcast interviews and stuff like that. They do that the day after the measurements. So Friday will be bench press for defensive line linebackers. Saturday will be bench press for defensive backs and special teams, and so on. So Sunday will be bench press for quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends, and then the last day, which will be Monday, March 6th, will be bench press for offensive linemen and running back. So let me get to this here. So Duke Tobin, the first one here is he's asked in his press conference about the ability to sign Joe Burrow. So here it is.
And his contract will get done when it gets done, but it's a good problem to have. He's a vital part of what we're doing.
A vital part of what we're doing is a massive understatement.
I mean, yeah.
How important is it to keep it intact? It's vital. It's my job. My job is to have as many good players on our football team as we can fit in, and so it's a challenging piece as our players mature and.
Okay, so he was talking about Joe Burrow. He basically said the contract will get done when it gets done. I'm sure they want to have it done before free agency starts. I'm sure they want to, so they have an idea of what they have to spend.
Sure.
But whether it comes out tomorrow or the day before free agency, it doesn't really matter. I think the last thing they want to do is let him play another year, and he wins a Super Bowl, which would be great, and then you pay him $1 trillion. So they want to get it locked up now, and they will. I do believe that they will. But that's really, it's one of those things that we can sit here and talk about Joe Burrow's contract situation all day. We could talk about all the different scenarios, what if he signs a Patrick Mahomes deal? What if he signs a team-friendly Tom Brady deal? What if he wants guaranteed money like Deshaun Watson? So, but there's really no point. We'll find out when we find out. So do you have anything else to add about that one?
Just that Duke Tobin doesn't always say the right things, and he said all the right things.
Yeah.
And that there's no reason to overanalyze it. He said it was his job to keep the players together. He said he was vital to the franchise. This is not a man who's underplaying Joe Burrow's importance. And if they don't get this deal done, they know they're screwed. I don't really have any worry that this thing doesn't get done this year.
Me neither.
That's it. I really don't think this is no news. It's important to play it. It's important to put it out there. It's no news. It changes nothing for me.
So the next one is involves T. Higgins, right? Because we've seen all those rumors about T. Higgins being traded. I think there was a bogus Twitter account that said that he would, or that they were shopping him, which is just
there are
not true.
So many. We got to stop listening to every rant. Hey, listen. Stop listening to every random Twitter account. I'm talking to the people out there.
Oh, okay.
I
don't do that, Kevin.
This is the time. It's 90% just BS. It really is. There's a couple good follows. Follow them. If it's legitimate, they'll tweet it out. They'll have their takes, whatever it is, and just ignore the rest. It is the slowest. Now, this is the slow season. Nothing's happening. And they will generate clicks. They will generate views. They will generate content with anything they can. But anyways, please play the clip.
All right. So this is more relevant. This is about T. Higgins. So we'll do this one.
Part of our team, he's exactly what we're hoping for when we draft a guy. A guy that comes in, develops, fills the role, helps us win in a lot of ways, does it the right way, fits into our culture. He's an exceptional football player, and I envision him being part of what we do going forward for a long time. That's the hope. That's we want our guys, and especially our guys that come in and prove that they can help us win in a big way. Vital part of.
Okay, so they drafted T. Higgins in the second round, and he's absolutely right. That's what you want. You want to be able to bring a guy in who contributes right away, and T. Higgins did, and then you want to be able to keep him here for the long haul. Obviously, having T. Higgins opposite of Jamar Chase with Joe Burrow at quarterback, that's a dream situation for 99.9% of any football team. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's just saying more of the same stuff. We want to keep him here. He's one of our guys. Nothing special here. We kind of knew this is what they were going to say. I don't think they'll trade T. Higgins. I think the window's open. I think trading T. Higgins for anything outside of Chicago's number 1 overall pick is just a signal to the rest of the league that we don't think our window is right now. We have to keep building. And I don't think they believe that. So I'm not worried about T. Higgins' contract situation at all. Now, the last one is a little bit about Joe Mixon. This one a little bit more telling about what could come based on what Duke Tobin doesn't say. Right? So here we go.
A vital part of our team. He's been a successful part of our team. Answers, in the words of the great Kevin Malone, I don't know. We'll all see as the offseason goes what we're able to get done and how the resources are spread around. But Joe's been a vital part of our team, a successful part, a contributing part, and my job is to try to keep as many of those pieces around as we can.
Okay. So he was asked about Joe Mixon's spot on the team heading into 2023. So if you don't know, Joe Mixon is due, I think, like 12 point something $1 million for this year. And leaving out all of the potential legal stuff that he's got going on. So the charges that were filed against him were dropped. But they were dropped. I don't remember what the legal, but it's either with or without prejudice, which basically means that whichever one it was, that the plaintiff, I think, can refile those charges, and that after more investigating, that's what their plan was going to be. Take all that out of it. Joe Mixon did not put up the numbers to earn $12 million. And I think that without any of the legal stuff, he's a candidate for a cap casualty cut, Now, the legal trouble on top of it, or potential legal trouble on top of it, I think makes it kind of a hard case that this is probably going to happen, But Duke Tobin basically, he didn't say, yes, he's going to be cut, because he wouldn't say that. But he didn't say no the way he did with T. Higgins. Like, T. Higgins is a vital part. We're going to keep T. Higgins here. He basically just said, I don't know the future, which to me kind of says probably gone. What do you think? What do you take away from that?
When you say you're not certain about a player who's currently under contract, that's not a great sign. Here's if I had to tell you what I think this means, I think Duke Tobin just said, if Joe Mixon doesn't if Joe Mixon doesn't take a pretty massive pay cut, we're cutting Joe Mixon. I think that's what that means. I'm jumping to conclusions. I know that, but that's what I heard by what he said. Joe Mixon does not play on this team next year without taking a pretty substantial pay cut. And I don't think he'll do it. I think Joe Mixon will probably want to test free agency. How well he'll do, for debate. But I do not think Joe Mixon is a Bengal beginning of the season.
Well, it's not testing free agency. He'd be cut. And then, he'll have to.
Yes.
I don't.
Well, that's what I mean by testing free agency, because he would get the option to either become a free agent by being cut or take a pretty substantial pay cut.
Right.
And for a running back who can't pass block or won't pass block, depending on who you talk to, get him out of here. I'm done.
Yeah.
We are a throw first offense. He underperforms and he can't pass block. For
Think
14
about-
million, he can get out of here, man.
Think about the Super Bowl. I mean, he was outsnapped by Pirine, and I don't know how much it was. And the main reason is because Pirine is a better pass blocker. And if you're going to pay somebody $12 million to sit in the running back position with Joe Burrow at quarterback, you better be able to block for him. You know what I mean? And so I think that the writing's kind of on the wall. I think we knew that in general that it was likely to happen. This doesn't confirm it 100%, but it kind of confirms it. You know what I mean?
So I mean, especially like, are you really going to have Joe Mixon and Bijan on the team at the exact same time? So like, we know what the Bengals' goals are. They're going to get Bijan. It's the right move.
They won't, but I don't think. Whatever. All right. You have anything else to add? I mean, there's other things to talk about next week. Next week, when we have all the measurables for these other players, for the players at the combine, we'll dig into a lot of those. Talk about who we liked, why, who surprised us. Right now, no one has run a 40-yard dash yet, so there's really nothing to talk about. And we'll have a full list of who the Bengals talk to, and right now they're just able to talk to defensive linemen and linebackers. We'll kind of get more of an idea of where their heads are at next week after the combine's over. So we'll do that next week. Do you have anything else you want to say?
No, just that I expect next week will be nothing but combine talk. We'll figure out a way to artificially break it down into 3 segments because that's the stick. But it's going to be combine talk. But that's all I got.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, for Kevin, I'm Jason. Thank you for watching 3 and Out with Jason and Kevin. Brought to you by CincyJungle.com, SB Nation's Cincinnati Bengals site, and sponsored by Eastgate Smiles Dental Care. Give them a call, 513-528-1150. Have a good night.
Who dat?
That's great!